Hello everyone, today we're going to make a really long tall card because I don't often make them this shape and I fancied a change, and this one's going to have some acetate windows cut into it, lots of little circle windows. So I'm using my coluzzle cutting system here, and I'm just randomly picking different size circles and just cutting them out of the front of this base card. I've got a vague idea in my head of where I want the circles because I know where I want the sentiment to be, but the other circles, literally, I was just plonking it down and picking random sizes and then just cutting them out. But this is where I want the sentiment, the one I'm just planning here. So I'm making sure that's going to be exactly where I want it. And then just snipping these little nibs that the coluzzle leaves behind. So I went ahead and did all the rest of those circles, and now I'm just going round and cutting out a circle one size bigger than each of the circles I've cut out, because I want to frame each of those circles using some purple and blue card. So that's what I'm doing here. It did take quite a while to do, but I thought it just broke up that rather full-on pattern front of the card. I wanted the pattern base card, but I think it needed breaking up a little bit because it's quite a strong pattern. So I'm just going and making a border for each of these circles. Did some in purple and some in blue. I'm always trying to use the least paper possible. So you can see that's how I'm going to frame them. Before I stuck them on, I decided to go around just the outside edge in them, just to lift them again from the pattern, and then I just glued them on, just using some standard PVA glue. So here I've stuck them all down and left them to dry, and now I'm just going to trim around the edges because obviously I don't want these sticking out as they are at the moment. So I'm just snipping along the sides. I think it's a good close cut with the base card if you do it like that. And now for the acetate. Although I would advise, if you want to put an inside bit to your card to cover up the acetate, you would do this first. But I was rushing on ahead regardless, and glued it in place before I realised there were other things I needed to do beforehand. But it didn't matter. As I always say, these things were a learning curve, and I certainly did some learning with this card. So I just went around the whole of the shape in a very thin layer of glue. Doesn't need much. And this PVA glue will dry clear anyway, so even if I didn't decide to cover the inside of the card, then it wouldn't be too bad. So I'm just pushing it right up to the fold of the card, and then just closing the card over it, and then pressing it down. And then I'm going to go around it. You can do this on the guillotine, but I just decided to use my scissors because they were nearer. But you can do this any way you choose. Here I'm just putting the circle that I cut out back in so I could draw around it, so I knew where the edges of my sentiment could go to. But if this would have been easier to do before I'd applied the acetate, I could have just closed the card, drawn around all of the circles, and then I would have had a perfect template on the inside of my card. But no matter. So here I've just cut out these doodlebug rub-ons for the word smile, and I'm just laying them out vaguely where I want them to be. They're actually a little too large to use for this, but I overlapped them and I thought that gave a good effect anyway. I don't think they need to be perfectly straight and in line and separate, so I just whack them on any old way. I started with the S and the E and worked inwards because I knew I was struggling on space. So I figured if I only had 3 letters to squash in, I wouldn't end up running out of room on the one side. And I always find once you've put these letters on, if you just remove the plastic bit of rub-on and then just press them down with your finger, it's almost as if the wax on your finger kind of seals them somehow, I don't know. But it just stops them lifting off anyway. And then I went round the edge and just rubbed out my pencil markings that I no longer needed. I also added a couple of stars here and there just to break up that rather big white space. And here I thought it needed something a little extra, so all I'm doing is those circles that I cut out earlier, I'm just going around and adhering the same size circle to the inside of the card. And here I'm just fixing the last one in. You can see how I'm doing it. I'm using the front of the card as the template, pushing it inside and then closing the card, and then I know it's going to be in the right place. And then I couldn't stop with my whole sticking circles down, so I decided to do the front of the envelope as well, and just sort of link it and match it in with the card. So I just stuck a couple in each corner. And then trimmed them off as well. And in the centre I also put a whole circle that I could write the person's name on. I thought that finished off the envelope quite nicely. And here I am just fixing that in place. Okay, I also went around it and did a little bit of doodling with my white gel pen. I didn't do it all as fake stitches. I did some circles, dots, dashes. I did lots of different ones depending on which circle it was, just to give it a bit of interest. And I also did some on the envelope as well, in the little bit where you write your the name to the person of the card you're sending it to, just to frame it. I just couldn't seem to stop doodling, but I thought it looked good in the end, so what the hey. And that's the finished card, so hope you enjoyed it, and thanks very much for watching. I'll see you next time.